Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Fangirl Chat. It's been a while. We have this one coming up for you and then another one too, so be looking for that one soon. I am here with my co-host, I'm Teresa, by the way, sorry. And my co-host is Trisha Barr. Hey Trisha.
Hi Teresa, I'm so excited to talk to you because I know you've been having fun the last week, and I want to hear all about it, and I think a lot of other people do. So tell us what you were up to.
Well, I got to go to California and go to Pasadena, Glendale, Burbank, and all of that area up there to visit the Disney Store headquarters, the Disney Film Studios or movie studios, and I did get to go down to Anaheim and go to Disneyland as well. So talk about a Disney dream trip.
Wasn't just Disney, it was like Disney Star Wars dream trip.
True, because it was focused on Star Wars, and that's why I was there. I went to report on it for Jedi News, and it was amazing. It was just a great, great trip. Probably the best part about it is that, you know, Disney wanted to bring us out, so they paid for everything to get us out there, and took care of pretty much everything while we were there, and transportation, food, all of that stuff. And they took such great care of us. They really made the trip exciting. It was a once in a lifetime thing, and well, unless I get to do it again, then it's not. But right now, it's once in a lifetime.
I was going to say that. I was going to say, I hope it's more than once in a lifetime. But for, you know, you always have those moments where you hope maybe life can top it. So what would you do the first day when you got there?
So the first day was travel, and I actually got to travel with Chris Wyman from rebelscum.com, and that was really fun. So we got to hang out and talk a lot. We got to the airport, and then there was a car service waiting for me. So I don't know if you've ever had somebody waiting for you with a sign with your name on it, but it's really cool because you feel super awesome.
You're like, where's the paparazzi?
Right, I'm right here. Take pictures. So then we did that, and we got in the car, went to the hotel, which was in Glendale. And then we had lunch at the hotel, and then our first thing was to get ready and to get set to go to the Walt Disney Studios, which was jaw-dropping, to say the least. I mean, I was so excited on the inside, I was falling apart, you know, but on the outside, I was real cool and like, I can do this, you know, but it totally, I don't know how to describe it. I get dumbfounded, you know, and I can't talk because I was actually there.
So you were harnessing your best Padme Amidala and looking like a cool customer.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I saw the picture of the Lucasfilm outside the door, the magic mystery door that, I think a couple people tweeted it from your group.
Yep.
And who were some of the other sites that were there with you?
So we had rebelscum.com and theforce.net and Chris Wyman. We had Dan Curto, who does Jedi News with me, as well as other things, and Star Wars Collectors Cast on Rebel Force Radio. And there was me, who was I was there for Jedi News, but also for everything else that I do. We had Ricky Brigante from Inside the Magic. He runs InsideTheMagic.net, which is a really big Disney fan site that covers news and park news for all the theme parks in Orlando. Chip Confer, who is the lead guy for Chip & Company. And actually, you are talking to the newest staff member of Chip & Company. So awesome. I now get to write for a Disney theme park site, which I am so pumped about. So pumped. I'm going to get to do stuff, you know, really cool stuff, and hopefully get to do things like go to the media event at Universal for Harry Potter when the next part opens for Chip and Company and stuff. So I'm super excited about all of those possibilities. There was also Brad from StitchKingdom.com as well, and then Steve Sansweet was there. So there was 9 of us in total. So it wasn't a super big group, but it was, you know, it was fun. Because there wasn't a lot of people.
So you did your tour on the first night, and then what happened the next day?
So the next day was all about the Disney Store, because that's what we were there for. We were hosted by the Disney Store, and we did we got to go to the headquarters, and they did presentations for us over the new merchandise coming out for the Disney Store, and that stuff is really, really, really cool. So, you know, there's a lot of merchandise coming out, and I know people are kind of skeptical, but that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, is that I am more convinced than I was before that Star Wars is in the right hands because of the care that is going into the products they are making for the Disney Store. Everything we saw will be exclusive to the Disney Store. It is not Disney Parks. We've had some people asking about that, and it is Disney Store exclusive merchandise. The Disney Parks merchandise is a separate entity from Disney stores, so what we saw will be coming out to Disney stores near you. Some of the stuff is actually out already. I went to my local store today to check it out and see what was there. So there is some stuff out, but the action figures won't be coming out until May the 4th. And then some of the other stuff, figure sets and die-cast vehicles and stuff, will be coming out in the fall and summertime. But it's all really cool merchandise. We also got a tour of the Disney Store headquarters, and then we got to go to Disneyland, which was amazing. And we had VIP tour guides that took us everywhere and got us on rides and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I cheated all the lines, but, you know, I only get to do that, like, once.
Do they have the little vests? Is the little plaid vest? Isn't that what they? Yep.
Yep. Awesome. I love the Main Street USA tour guide outfits. I love them. I think they're the best ones that are out there. They look so cute. They even gave us a little Mickey pin, like, you know, pin trading pins, but it's the one with Mickey dressed up in the tour guide outfit.
I've never seen that one. I do the pin trading, so I'm not as avid as some of my friends who, like, you know, they stop at everybody and look at their pins, but I do, you know, spy their little, you know, the cast members have their little pins either on their, around their necks or on their hips, and, you know, sometimes you can find cool things there.
Yep, that pin is actually exclusive for doing certain kind of tours, so you can only get that pin if you do a tour kind of like what we did.
Oh, wow, that's really neat.
Yep, very cool, very cool. Also on the first day we had dinner with Jonathan Story. He's one of the big wigs in the Disney Store, so I got to sit with him and ask a lot of cool questions about the Disney Store. And then they took us on a tour of the Disney Store that's closest to where we were. And I can tell you, I have never paid that much attention to a Disney Store before, but now that I have, I'm all about Disney stores now because of how much attention to detail they pay to everything, and it's just amazing. And they're going to do the exact same thing they do for Disney merchandise, for Star Wars merchandise, and, you know, having it just aesthetically perfect, basically. So I'm really stoked. And then they actually gave us a $50 gift card to go shopping. So I got the new Bantha plush and the R2-D2 plush, and I also got one of the Disney Animators dolls. Have you seen those?
I have not.
Okay, so Disney Animators dolls are all of the Disney princesses, pretty much, and they went back to all of the animators that actually drew the characters and asked them to draw them as what they would look like if they were toddlers. So all the dolls are just adorable because they are all toddler versions of all the princesses, and the Pocahontas one is really hard to find, and they had one there, so I had to buy her.
Ooh, those sound really cute.
They are, and they've done Anna, Elsa, and Kristoff. Kristoff is the first boy to ever be done. So, yay! And they've been sold out of them, so as soon as they come back in, which we were told Frozen merchandise will be coming back into the stores pretty soon, I will be buying all three of those.
I know, that's like...
They're adorable.
Nobody can get their hands on Frozen merchandise. It's crazy.
Yeah, for this video, I'll make sure to put a picture of what the animator dolls look like for Frozen. They're so cute. So I had to get one. And because all this stuff was too big for me to bring home, they were so nice and told me that they would ship home all of my stuff. So, because I wasn't going to get anything because it was too big, and they were like, "Are you going to get anything?" I was like, "No, because it won't fit in my bag." And they said, "Don't worry about that. We'll ship it for you. So buy whatever you want." And I was like, "Well, okay then."
Okay, I'm getting the biggest thing here.
Well, and I did get a Jungle Book Vinylmation. I keep forgetting to talk about this, but I made Steve Sansweet pick it out for me. I said, "You're going to pick out my Jungle Book Vinylmation because you're good luck." And so he picked it, and it was the little baby elephant that Mowgli walks with, you know.
Aww.
So, yeah, it was really good. It was really good.
So we got to talk beforehand. You told me that your one of your VIP tour guides was a big Star Wars fan.
Yes, her name was Amy. They both were huge Star Wars fans, and they're both cosplayers, Amy and Jeff. But Amy, the girl, was just amazing. She had like a 9-strand braid, which blew my mind. I know you and we just think about braiding hair, and her ponytail, like side ponytail, was a 9-strand braid. I was just like, oh my God, that's so Star Wars and Frozen all at the same time. And she does cosplay. She goes to conventions. She watches the Clone Wars. She has seen all the movies. Her area of expertise is actually like original trilogy and after, and Jeff area is actually all Old Republic up to prequel trilogy and Clone Wars and stuff. So it was kind of neat how they sort of split, and they could hang with us. They were picked to do this tour specifically because we were all Star Wars nerds. So we were talking about Darth Bane and Darth Plagueis, you know, and all the plot lines from the movies and books and Dawn of the Jedi comics, and, you know, how to make good cosplay costumes and just all kinds of stuff. It was awesome.
So you got to geek out with them.
Definitely. And it was so cool to have Disney tour guides that were just as much of nerds as the rest of us in the world of Star Wars nerds.
I think that's totally awesome. And I think it's totally awesome that you got to hang out with Steve Sansweet. And what was he there for? Also representing like the collectors, or in another capacity?
He was there more for himself, I think. He was also getting, you know, merchandise, I would assume, for Rancho Obi-Wan and himself, because he did get a lot of stuff. But he's been on tours of the Disney studios before. He's been to the Disney studios before, but he'd never been on a tour like we went on, where they were explaining all the different buildings and showing us really cool stuff. And we got to go inside of a soundstage, specifically Soundstage B, which is where all of the Pixar movies, audio, like voice audio, has been recorded, as well as Captain America stuff, Pirates of the Caribbean stuff. I was literally in a room that has had Chris Evans in it, Johnny Depp in it, Tom Hanks in it, John Lasseter in it, and I was just standing there going, oh my God, I can feel it. I can feel everybody that has ever been here. This is amazing.
And you're still standing?
I know.
I would just be like a puddle. I would still be there, a puddle on the floor. So, no, I think that's like just pick up all their energy. So
exactly. And not only that, but they had a session that day. I don't know what the session was for, but they had food outside of the recording room. And the lady was like, we're done with our session, so y'all can eat whatever you want. And we're like, really? And it reminded me of the scene from Saving Mr. Banks where they're bringing in all this food, you know, and there's all this food sitting there, and I'm like, okay. And I grabbed like 2 handfuls of carrots. I was like munching down on carrots.
I've seen actors say that craft services is dangerous, you know, because they always have these, you know, strict regimens, and to, you know, and because they're bulking up or whatever, and then there's all this great food, and they're like, I can't eat that. So
yeah, it was really cool, and Steve really enjoyed the trip, from what I could tell, and you know, and I got some good opportunities to talk to him about different things. And he really loves plush toys. And so he and I talked about plush toys for a good long while. So that was pretty cool, because I really love plush too. And I didn't know he really liked plush.
Well, you never know what people, you know, are, you know, what really as I say, flips their whopper as far as, what they like as far as merchandise. Sometimes people surprise you, but that's cool. I like plush too. The little cute things always help. And so you got to see, we've seen a lot of stuff online. People can, go to Jedi News UK and see, you guys got to go around the table and take pictures and stuff like that. And a lot of original trilogy stuff. What was your impressions of the merchandise and how it was laid out and what was to come?
I think it is all done fabulously. I really do. One of the coolest things about all of this is that the director of Hardlines, and I know, Trisha, you asked me this before we started, but Hardlines is anything that's not like clothes. And so all toys and stuff are considered Hardlines. The director of Hardlines, and she's kind of in charge of the Star Wars line, is a female, which I will say blew my mind when she's the one who stood up and was introduced as the one that was going to start the presentations off and introduce all the merchandise. And I was so excited, too, at the same time. Her name is Nomi. I don't know her last name. She was around to see the original trilogy as a kid, and she has nieces and a daughter and stuff that she's introduced into Star Wars. And so, I can tell you that the integrity of Star Wars as far as girls are considered is going to be taken care of. Everything that you and I care about so much about girls being represented, I really feel like it's in good hands because they've got a female at the helm, which is so encouraging. But the items that are coming out are all original trilogy, mostly, there's stuff from all three films, but a lot of it looked like to be A New Hope inspired kind of stuff. The lead designer, his name is Brian Ewing. He actually went back to his toy collection that he had as a kid and was looking at the things he liked, things he wished he had. And that's kind of how they started developing the toys, was based off of their own toy collections that they have and seeing, what they could do to make improvements on the things that they had as kids, which is really, really cool. The main things I think a lot of people were interested in are the action figures. These action figures are on a 12-inch scale. They're going to be $29.95, but they look amazing. Han looks great. Vader is awesome. One of the things they pointed out about Vader is that usually he has like a cloth cape, but they wanted to catch the magnificence of the cape of Darth Vader and, make it look like it's flowing when he's walking. And I'm sure you know what I mean by that. There's something about his cape that's so dynamic. And so they decided to make the cape out of PVC instead of doing it as a fabric, which I thought was really smart. But it's still kind of soft and movable, so it's not hard, but
it has a shape.
Right.
Like it looks like he's moving.
Right.
Yeah.
So the sounds are fantastic in these. They have 13 points of articulation, so they're going to move. Now they don't move like in the waist and in one hand because of the electronics for the sound, but the rest of it is just awesome. It moves in its ankles, knees, and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really, they're just gorgeous. But something that you and I will like is that they're starting out with Luke, a stormtrooper, and Han Solo and Vader, but Boba Fett and Chewie are coming. And I got to see the prototype of Boba Fett, not painted or anything. We couldn't touch him because he was like very fragile. But I was like, Boba Fett. Actually, his antenna from his helmet was taped to his forehead because it had fallen off.
Oh, that's funny. I'm just going to ask a stupid non-collector question because I'm curious. Why are the points of articulation so, because I always see that come up. That's a big deal for people. Why?
People like to know how posable the figure is going to be and if they're going to be able to put them in different positions. So the less points of articulation, the more stiff the figure is. The more points of articulation, the more they bend. Now, I don't like toys that have too much articulation because you can't stand them up. If they have too many points, so like 2 in their ankles and 2 in their knees or whatever, they're kind of like rag dolls. You stand them up and they just kind of collapse down. I'm sure you can picture what I'm saying because all their joints move so much that they can't hold themselves up. But if they have enough articulation that you can put them in different positions and, hold a blaster or hold a lightsaber and have their arms up above their head or something, it's really cool to be able to do that, but not so much to where they just sort of collapse and fall down.
So you actually take yours out of the box?
Oh, yeah, I'm not a mint and card person. I take mine out. Now, the only ones I don't take out are my 3 3/4 inch figures, unless it's like an Ewok, because an Ewok will stand up. But because they're so hard to display on shelves, because they don't stand up really. Some of them do, some of them don't. You never really know. And they're hard to see, and then you have to dust them and stuff. So a lot of those I keep on the card, and I just use thumbtacks or nails and, put them up on the wall. But I open pretty much everything else. So,
well, there you go.
And these I would definitely open. Definitely open. They are really sculpted well. They paid a lot of attention to detail. And one of their biggest things is that they wanted complete aesthetic correctness of the figures. Because the integrity of the Star Wars line had to be intact with this stuff. That was super important to them. And then also, everything that was chosen for this first, what they're calling a statement wave of their merchandise, was chosen by Lucasfilm. So it wasn't chosen by Disney. And that was really cool to hear that they're working so closely with Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm was making lots of trips out to see them. They were going up to see Lucasfilm with the merchandise to make sure that everything is correct. They do have some stuff that is still in prototype. So I know a lot of people were upset about one of the vehicles because the engines are backwards on the X-Wing. But I just need to point out it's a prototype. There's no paint. It's gray. Nothing moved. And it's a die-cast prototype. So just sit tight. They'll fix it. And if they don't fix it, something's wrong. But we've emailed them, or someone has.
They can retcon it. There is some with engines backwards.
Yeah.
They just flew backwards and shot at things.
Right?
Isn't that what Star Wars fans do?
Oh my gosh. So one of the cool things about these figures, a lot of people have been debating how tall they are. They're on a 12-inch scale. So like Luke and Han are right around the 12 3/4 inch, 12-inch height. But then they're done for realism. So like the stormtroopers are taller usually. So the stormtroopers are 13.5. Vader is almost 15 inches, and Boba Fett's going to be a little bit taller. I mean, not Boba Fett, Chewie's going to be a little bit taller. So there's no direct scale. They're not all the same height, which I thought was wonderful because they're actually paying attention to the characters and how tall they really are in comparison to each other. So they started off with a 12-inch scale, and then, we'll adjust based on height of the actual character from there.
They're like they have little, that's what we do, right? We're like, make sure the heights of everybody's correct in the pictures, and when they put out books, the books on characters or whatever, they have to be relative to each other. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, it is. There's also some figure sets that are coming out, which are going to be $12.95, which is pretty neat because you get quite a few figures in them. And Disney does these figure sets for every, what they call a synergy. And so a synergy is, like a story. So like for Frozen or Little Mermaid or whatever, they do figure sets for everything. So you've probably seen these before. They're in like a plastic bubble case. And they've got like 2 levels, and you've got like 4 figures on the top level and like 4 or 5 on the bottom level. I'm sure you've seen them.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yes, and I think that's so. Will we be seeing them for each of the movies?
Yes.
Okay.
A New Hope, Empire, and Return of the Jedi will each have one. The Gamorrean Guard is amazing. The detail on the sculpt of that one little figure is worth the whole $12.95. He just looks awesome. And I did ask them if they were going to incorporate play sets into the figure sets, and they said that they start with the play set or with the figure sets first, and they want the characters to get out there, and then after that they'll introduce environments at some point in the future. So they want to launch with characters first and then play sets maybe later.
Well, that works. It sounds like you get the characters, and then you can imagine them in their little environments later on. More to do.
Right. And the die-cast vehicles look awesome. There's going to be 12 of them, and there's 3 of them that are a deluxe larger size, so they cost a little bit more. But you're talking like Death Star, Millennium Falcon, Star Destroyer, Y-Wing, B-Wing, X-Wing, Slave One, all the major vehicles, and they looked great. They're still in prototype form, not painted or anything like that, so we don't know 100% what they're going to look like, but from what I saw, they looked good. And Disney Store is very good at doing die-cast. All of their cars for cars and things like that are die-cast. They do a great job, so I have full confidence in them when it comes to that, and I can't wait to see those. Then there was some awesome plush, which you and I both love plush. The Bantha looks fantastic. There's a Tauntaun. And, of course, we're going to get the Tauntaun because our Tauntauns need cousins or sisters or brothers.
We're going to have a herd.
We're going to have herds of Banthas and Tauntauns. Now, somebody made a comment that the Tauntaun doesn't have a saddle, but the Bantha does. And we replied with, well, it's a wild Tauntaun. And then I remembered, well, my Tauntaun from Celebration Europe doesn't have a saddle either. So I have 2 wild Tauntauns. And it was funny because Adam Paulus from GalacticHunter.com said, well, if it's not in the movies, then it's not canon. And we were like, oh, my God.
Isn't there a herd of Tauntauns when they're flying over in the snow speeders?
I feel like there is.
Running in Empire Strike. I'm pretty sure that there's a herd of wild Tauntauns.
I don't know.
There.
You're the expert on Empire, so you'll have to get back to me on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna check. I'm pretty sure there's some wild Tauntauns. I think he's.
Hey, sorry guys, we're back. We had a minor technical difficulty. Skype does that sometimes. Okay, so we were talking about plush, we were talking about Tauntauns, and we were talking about wild Tauntauns. If anybody knows if there's a herd of wild Tauntauns in Empire Strikes Back, leave a comment on this video. There we go. Otherwise, we'll go watch Empire Strikes Back and find out.
An excuse to do research.
Right. So I also got an R2-D2, and this is cool because he has articulation in a plush. So his legs move, and then his head spins all the way around. So it's so cool because you can rotate his head on his body. I love it. Perfect.
It's like an owl.
I know. Well, the thing is they were worried about what would look good in plush, and not everything does. So they were being very careful about what would look good in plush and what they would make. And so they chose a Bantha, a Tauntaun, a Jawa, and an R2-D2. And so I have 2 of those. And actually the Bantha, the Jawa, and the R2-D2, there's also a Chewbacca, are available at stores right now. But the Tauntaun's not out yet. So I don't know when he's coming out. But when he does, I'm going to scoop him up. I'll probably get all of the plush. Just for collector purposes. And then there were some mugs. Did you see the mugs?
I saw the mugs, and I was just about to ask you about the mugs because they are the most adorable thing. I saw them, and they're all a little different and different size. I'm like, I could have my tea in those.
Oh, the mugs are great. What they did is they used the shape of the character to make the mugs. So, the C-3PO one is taller, but kind of comes in at an angle because it's his top part as it comes into his waist. The R2-D2 one is sort of short and round and fat. The Chewbacca one is tall, and his belt actually protrudes from the mug itself, so you can feel it. The Vader one is shaped like his helmet, so they use the shapes of the character for each of the mugs, and the mugs are going to be $12.95. So the pricing isn't too bad. It's pretty decent, I think. So that was pretty much it. We also saw the role play department, and they showed us the Darth Vader and Stormtrooper costumes, and there's also a female that's in charge of that as well. And she went through the whole process, and they are very meticulous about how they do these costumes, and they try to get all of the details perfect down to the stitching. Originally, the Vader costume had black stitching, and she told them no, because Vader's costume has dark gray as it's, you can see the stitching in the costume, and it's a dark gray, and she wasn't going to not have dark gray stitching. So it had to have that. She had to have the chain, for the cape, and they didn't want to put that on there because of safety reasons. So she had to go back and forth with them on how she could get the chain, and it had to be stitched down. So it's on there, but it's stitched down so that it doesn't pose any safety hazards.
Oh,
but
yeah, like so. Works.
Yeah, but she pushed hard. She wanted things done to detail. And that was so good to hear. Again, I mean, Star Wars is in such good hands, Trisha. It really is. I could not be happier about that.
Well, that's it. It all sounds like you just had the most fabulous time, and your like energy level excitement is it Fangirl Flail?
It is Fangirl Flail level. Oh, yeah. I got to hang out with Vanessa Marshall. That was awesome. The voice of Hera. And we have a Fangirl Flail video. I need to post that on our Fangirl chat channel.
Yes, you
on
do.
YouTube.
Which will be, we're already rounding it up, but we're going to try really hard for a flash mob here at Celebration, which for fangirls to flail all together. So
I know. And we got to figure out how we're going to do that. Like, are we going to get a boombox and play a bunch of music and flail around? Or are we going to just everybody go 1, 2, 3, flail? I don't know. But either way.
Well, that's why I say we have to get Jennifer Landa involved, because she knows how to do that stuff. That's her thing. So, we can have everybody in on this planning, scheming, however it works, and probably Lucasfilm's chasing us down, going to be going, don't do that.
Why would they not want us to flail? It's fun. We're going to have Erish in there going, Muppet flail.
That's right. You can do any type of flail, and it'll be for fangirls and fanboys, but to celebrate fangirls, and everybody can do it, though. That's part of our thing. Definitely part of our thing. So anybody can do it.
One of the things I wanted to mention that I hadn't mentioned yet is that I did ask the question about females being represented within the Star Wars universe, and if they were taking into consideration that there are female fans. And they did say yes, that they are. However, with this first wave of toys, they're trying to make a certain kind of statement. And so to do that, they're focusing on iconic, very recognizable characters such as Vader, Luke, Chewie, R2-D2, Stormtroopers. And that completely makes sense from a marketing perspective. That does not mean that they are not coming out with female characters, because they are. And how they described it is that when they support a synergy, and so Star Wars would be a synergy, they support an entire family. So they look at the entire family, mom, dad, daughter, son, niece, nephew, cousin. They look at the whole family and try to find a way that they can include the entire family in that synergy. So while the focus may be on what we want to call boys initially right now, that does not mean that girls are not going to be included, because they will be. They just have to make their initial statement first. And I think that that's fair.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I think, unfortunately there aren't a lot of female characters in A New Hope to spotlight. There's one important one, and that was Princess Leia. So going forward, they're making a statement about those movies, and hopefully the movies going forward will have this nice representation, and so we will see more things that are balanced. But that is one of the things with the original trilogy. There's just not a lot of female characters in it. There's the Stormtroopers are all male characters, and so we're going to see that I think it'll end up balancing out. They've been very, very responsive to that, I think. How female fans want to be included. So
true. And I mean, they have the princess market down, so it's not like they can't make, girl stuff. They know how to make girl stuff. It's just a matter of how they make girl stuff within the Star Wars universe. And I think that they're going to do a really good job. And something to keep in mind is that this is Disney. It's not Hasbro. It's not Lego. It's not anything else. And this is Disney Store. They're going to do a good job. all of their stuff is really done very well for the most part, and I was so impressed with the Disney store. You have no idea. I want to go work for the Disney store.
She's offering her
I am
services.
offering. If Disney store needs someone to work for them, I will do it.
So just real quick, so you had good time with Vanessa, and she's an awesome fangirl.
She's a fangirl bestie now. I started using that hashtag fangirl bestie. She's amazing. You're gonna love her. You're gonna love her, and she has presents for you.
Oh, that's exciting. And I just think it's so cool that, she's a fan and wants to, there's been a lot of interviews around recently, and you get to hear her talk, and she reminds me a little bit of, Sam Witwer and like the things she thinks about it, just, that she's a fan and thinks about it as an actress. How the character, she has to have it working in her head too. And so I was like, I think that's really cool because, that's part of, for me, one of the real fun things about being a fan is sort of getting into characters' heads and wondering, we see the movies, but, we see a lot of things going on, and then you have to figure a lot of it out for yourself, just figuring out. The first time I saw Obi-Wan Kenobi, like, who is he and what does he really mean and represent? And obviously now we have tons of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but, that was always the fun part, is learning about the character. So I like that, she talks about that, and you get to hear that and see that from her. So
yeah, definitely. She's a super fan. And that's really cool. And I think that's one of the best parts about her. We could have her on Fangirl Chat and talk about, Lord of the Rings or something, and she'd be so down. So she's just an amazing person.
And all I'd talk about would be Legolas.
Exactly. What else is there to talk about on Lord of the Rings? There's other characters? What? Oh my gosh. No, she's fantastic, and she's become a really good friend. So that's really fun. I'm so glad. I like having friends.
And it was nice because you got to network with some new people and get to know people better that you just get to often see them in, either a con setting or Star Wars weekends or something like that. So you actually get to do something a little different where sometimes, those situations can be chaos and you don't feel like you get to really say hi, more than hi.
Exactly. And that was really good. And I got to hang out with Dan Curto again, who's one of my really good friends. So we had a blast together. So I'm glad he was there. And now I'm trying to make him come to Star Wars weekends. He probably won't. He was just here, but, I can still ask him every day, like 2 or 3 times. Are you coming now? Are you going to come now? So.
Well, and then we have, there's a lot, obviously Star Wars Weekends is coming up and, as, moving forward, and there's, they've made announcements now of everybody who's coming, so you can look on the schedule, and I think it doesn't matter. Every week is awesome. Literally every week of the people that are there is, you could go to any, and that's one of the things that's, any show I go to, I'm just always blown away with how personable and engaged and the great funny stories that people have about, being on the set. So you just get to learn, sometimes you're like, oh, well, that person was just in a little bit of the movie, but they end up having these amazing, points of view of what happened, like Warwick Davis. He was a kid and the things he can talk about because he just saw the whole movie making experience as a kid, which is just so neat.
Yeah, it's definitely very cool, and I'm looking forward to all of it.
So anything else that you want to tell people from your trip?
Go to Disneyland. It's fun. Watch World of Color. It's going to make you cry because for some reason they find it necessary to put the scene in there where Mufasa dies. Ugh.
Well, they get to, jerk your heart out every once in a while. So
right. No, just that, we had a really good time, and to look for some things coming. I'm going to be on Radio 1138 in the Star Wars Collectors Cast. which is all on the Rebel Force Radio Network. I'm going to be doing a lot of posts, just typing up everything. I have a lot of pictures that are going to be going up. I'm definitely going to be putting those on my Facebook, but my Facebook is private. I use it really just for my friends and family. So what I'll probably do is put pictures up on the Fangirls Going Rogue page, and do some galleries there of images, so people can go look for that, Fangirls Going Rogue, on Facebook. But I will be doing a lot of posting things on Jedi News, and then also cross-promoting on Fangirl Next Door. And I will have articles going up on Chip and Company, because I'm now on their staff, so that's exciting.
Well, you got stuff going up everywhere. So, and make sure, we always link all that stuff on Fangirls Going Rogue Facebook. So, and it comes through on our Twitter feed, which is FG Going Rogue, and and then obviously Teresa, your Twitter handle,
Ice Cold Penguin, and
I'm Fangirl Cantina. So all those places, we have conversations and we share everything that, we're doing, and we share each other's stuff because, that's the way we roll.
Because we're friends and that's what we do.
Yeah. And there's so much great stuff coming out, and all the cool WonderCon, you just sort of you just missed all the cool WonderCon stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what? There were so many awesome people tweeting that I felt like I was there. So, and then thank you StarWars.com for putting it all up right away, because I was so excited to see, all that stuff.
Yeah, it was really cool. Well, that's it, guys. We've come to the end of our show. Let us know in comments if there's anything you want us to fangirl chat about. We don't get a lot of comments on our videos, so leave some comments. Or visit us on Fangirls Going Rogue and let us know if you want us to talk about something. Remember, Fangirls Going Rogue is all Star Wars, and over here we talk about everything. So, if you like what you hear, like our video. It's right down there, right below where I'm talking. Just, click the little thumbs up button right there. And share us.
Thumbs up, and Teresa does a great job of putting all the pretty little pictures. She's the talented computer person. I just press record. So
who's also lazy and hasn't made the videos I'm supposed to make, even though I say I'm doing them. So I'm holding myself to it. I'm going to do it. We have this one coming, and then we're going to have another one coming, and then we're going to record some more.
I have one more to send you.
Oh, do you?
With the fangirl that I interviewed from 1977.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was 30 years old, so it was a totally different perspective, it's an awesome interview, and I will send it to you. She was so much fun to talk to. It was she was how would I say, the grandma of fandom now, because she knows, she's older and wiser and sees how we all experienced it as little kiddos.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll get that up too. And then we got to do My Little Pony.
And My Little Pony. And I'll just be I think that, this one's cute and that one's cute, but that's the way you can love things too.
Here's my challenge to you. I'm going to give you 3 episodes with their titles that you need to watch on Netflix. And
okay.
And then you need to watch those because they're awesome.
I will do that. So for Fangirl Chat this time, we're all set and closed, and again, you can follow us on Facebook at Fangirls Going Rogue. We put all our stuff up, and we will see you next time?
Yeah, we'll see you next time. We need a cool ending for the show. We don't have one.
But you play the cool music.
Oh, that's true. Okay, and cue cool music.